Hi, I'm Jessica Jackson of Thriving in Motherhood podcast, and today I want to talk to you about decluttering our things and why you might be holding on to stuff. Now, I have been doing this for a very long time, and yet I'm still going. There's still things that I'm finding. And today's episode is brought to you by a tote that I opened up and realized there's a reason why I'm holding on to this container of stuff that is different than anything else that I've ever uncovered before. So we're going to jump into that in just a moment. But first, I want to invite you to check out my free workshop, 3 Secrets to Do More of What You Love Without Hiring a Babysitter. This applies to your decluttering efforts in your house or really creating space for anything that's important to you that you can't get to. You can get that at thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/workshop to really empower you to create that space and time for yourself, because I know you're intentional with your family and with your children, and it's so important to you. But it's also important to be able to have time and space to do those things that are very important to you. Hi, I'm Jessica Jackson, and this is the new way to thrive in motherhood by leaning into who you are, what you love, your unique family situation and personal mission to create a life that you actually want to live. I want to invite you to join me in saying no to the life of the exhausted supermom, burnout, victim thinking, being pulled in so many directions, suffering through survival mode, or being lost in motherhood, and say yes to building strong families and moving forward on our greatest goals in order to create a fulfilling life that we are excited to wake up to each day and become a soaring mother. This is the Thriving in Motherhood podcast. All right, the tub that I opened was a bin of things that we have for bags that we use sometimes when we are traveling. So there's a few totes and backpacks and luggage, I don't know, like the soft shell luggage carrier things, I don't know, bunch of stuff in there. And originally I was like, I can get rid of all of this. I have not been using it. And then I was like, well, I probably should talk to Andrew about it, because I know sometimes he flies with that stuff. And then I started thinking like, well, sometimes I fly with some of these things too when I do that occasionally, even though mostly we road trip with our family. And there was this one time when I was using, and then I remembered, like last year we used one of these bags for our hotel bag as we were driving across the country. And that's when I realized the reason why I'm holding on to this tote bin full of bags, that some of them I use and some of them I haven't in a while and some of them I use sometimes, is because I do not have a clear system for when I'm traveling. Let me say that again. The reason why I'm holding on to stuff is because I do not have a clear system. All right. Systems is part of the 3 pillars of thriving. It's the structure pillar. It's essential. But what I didn't realize is how it applied to my decluttering efforts, because the reality is if I knew when we traveled exactly what bag I was putting all of the kids' toiletries in, how we were organizing them, how we were going to organize things for the hotel, how we would organize things when we drove in the van, how we would organize things when we flew, and what things I needed for each of those scenarios that we do most of the time, those are things that are common for us to do, then I could let everything else go. But because I'm not super confident about that, therefore I'm holding on to all of the stuff just in case, right? So a lot of these just in case things, like I can't get rid of that because I might need it. Sometimes it's out of fear of like toilet paper shortages, right? But I think a lot of time it's because we just don't have a plan in place for what to do. I think the kitchen is a great example of this. The reason why it's probably pretty easy for like when I've followed a bunch of, there's a whole list of people that declutter. And oftentimes they say start in your linen closet or in your bathroom, because those are areas that are pretty quick. And the reason why is because it's very clear to be like, okay, how many people in your house? This is how many dishes you need per day per people in your house. Okay, these are how many pots you can use at a time on your stove. So that's how many pots you need. Like it's pretty quick to do a numbers game on your kitchen, or to even say like, okay, we literally never use this, right? Or I know what you cook, you know what you cook every day. So you can kind of see like, this is what I use every day. So you kind of have inherently systems in your kitchen for how you cook, how you use stuff in that space. And so it's easy to see what's not working, what to let go of, what's okay to let go of. But it feels a little bit more abstract with things like luggage, where you're not using it all the time. It's not as familiar to you. And so this is where we talk about, when I talk about that 5-step path from surviving to thriving, and you've got, you can get the checklist, by the way, thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/checklist to get it for free so you can figure out where you're at. But that 3rd step is normalizing. And when I say normalizing, we're getting systems in place. We're getting some basics of that structure pillar, but we're not fully building it out. We're just getting enough in place, dishes, laundries, meal planning, that the things that are happening literally every day in your life are not falling apart at every moment. Not everything is a fire. Because if you've got dishes, laundries, and meals, things sort of can flow, right? Like that's enough. That's minimum viable, structure for your life, for your family. But what's really exciting is as you get through the 5 steps path, the thriving phase is actually building your three pillars of thriving in your life so you can get to soaring. And that structure pillar is a long game, because we have lots of systems and routines and structures built into our life, into our day. There's a lot that needed to be in place for me to get to where I'm at in my life, with homeschooling our kids and podcasting and making YouTube videos and working on our house project, like all the things, right? Running our house, making sure we're cooking good food every night, most nights. But it's a totally, but that's not the end, right? That is not the end, keeping our house picked up. But there's always things that you can build systems for. And so instead of getting overwhelmed or feeling like you're stuck or you're never going to get to the end, because here's the other thing, it is finite, right? Like at some point you really do run out. But I like to look at my structure pillar as a long-term game of something that I'm going to keep working on, keep taking baby steps in. Today, I'm excited to share with you about the Made to Soar Next 90 Days program. It is a self-paced online course with lots of interaction from me that has transformed the lives of women from all around the world as they have learned to build unique family systems that support them in their own unique life circumstances, that allow the necessary and essential things of life to get done and leave time and energy to do what matters most to them. I'm going to let some women who have been through the program tell you a little bit more about their experience now.
Just mucking through the day was just survival. And then I was like, the thought of trying to do anything extra was like, well, that's just never gonna happen.
I think with Made to Soar, I don't know, I was probably hoping that it'd be the magic bullet for morning.
I mean, we had no systems in our house. I mean, we had no routines. Like we were.
How can I infuse meaning into my life? And even if I do the same thing, how can I think about it differently so that I'm feeling fulfilled?
And so that was my goal in joining the Next 90 Days, was to figure out how to kind of handle all of these different domains. How do I become intentional with all of these things and make sure that I'm meeting my own expectations?
Now I have systems set in place that things like the laundry are just automatic, things get done.
Because I was able to have the foundation of some of these systems and routines, when things got crazy, I could still go back to those and be like, okay, well, at least the laundry got done. At least my kids got fed. At least I read the Bible and did my workout today.
So it helped me go through a couple big moves and big changes and to keep some level of stability for the family.
Figuring out how do I homeschool? How do I do it with consistency and some level of discipline? And then how do I build a business and still find meaningful work outside of my home? All of that, I wouldn't have known how to organize it. It was all kind of just like spaghetti in my brain.
With Made to Soar, just gaining clarity about what I wanted my days and weeks to look like, my hours and my spare minutes.
This is how we get to where we want to go, and just changing those expectations has helped me to be happier.
I have power to change my circumstances, right? That I can put in new routines. I can solve some of these problems. I can think about things differently and realize that I have power to be in a better place.
And so what's exciting for me is uncovering a reason why I'm holding on to something. I don't have a system for travel. And now what I get to do is use all of the skills that I have in my Made to Soar program, where we build these 3 pillars of thriving, and use that to build some systems for my family to solve this problem, so that I can then go through that bin and say, this is what we need and this is what we don't need, and just simplify, get rid of the rest. I don't want to do things willy-nilly. I know there's a lot of just get rid of it. You haven't touched it, just get rid of it. But I know I do use some of it. So I'm excited to be able to find ways to use what we have effectively, get rid of the rest, and simplify. So here's your challenge today. This is not a super long episode, but I would love for you to think about something that you are holding on to that you are holding on to because you don't have a solid plan in place, that you don't have a system for? And can you challenge yourself for fun to come up with a system for that? And if you need help with that, I touch on that in my free workshop, 3 Secrets to Do More of What You Love Without Hiring a Babysitter. We touch on the systems there. We go really deep. I work with you. I hold your hand through this process on the Made to Soar program. So I highly recommend checking that out. And working on building some of that structure pillar, strengthening your structure pillar, because that is what's going to get you to soaring. That is what's going to help you become a soaring mother. And if you can have fun with it, even better. If you can do it with your kids, even better. They love doing this stuff. It becomes a really great part of it's a very great part of our family culture to figure out and problem solve these things together. So if you want more about building systems, there's things on the Thriving at Motherhood podcast, 5 years worth of helping you guiding you through this. But again, I highly recommend checking out the workshop and jumping into the Made to Soar program with me and women from all over the world who are working to build their 3 pillars of thriving and become soaring mothers. Thank you so much for being here with me this week. I'm excited to talk with you next week. And if you haven't yet, please leave a review on iTunes. This is the way that you can help the podcast grow. Leave a comment on Facebook or on Instagram. No, YouTube. Hit subscribe, follow along so you can keep getting content, and share it with a friend so you can talk to them about this principle and keep growing and learning together. Have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next week.
Where you are planted, watch the blossoms grow.